All right. We are good. I will open up this town council meeting for July 10th. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hot mic. Hot mic. Get some back. Go on.
Put his mic down. There might be feedback from the mic.
Which one?
It's Chris. Yeah.
Is it?
We're good. I'm still saying Cassie. It's all
Roll
you.
call? Okay. Counselor Albert?
Here.
Counselor Colby? Here. Counselor Brunel?
Here.
Counselor La Rochelle?
Here.
Counselor Ward?
Here.
Counselor Lund?
Here.
And Counselor Crawford?
Here.
That was me.
Next.
Good news and recognition.
Anybody have anything that they would like to bring? Yes, please.
Dot Fitzgerald, Lisbon Falls. I don't know how many of you have noticed, but we have lights around the town garden at the intersection of Route 196 and School Street. Thank you, Chris Crawford, for that.
You're welcome.
They are a beautiful addition. How old is your son?
8.
Chris, I was rearranging the lights one night when he drove by. I don't know why the police didn't stop me. Stop by. But he said he was the one that put the lights there, bought the lights and put them there. He thought it would be a good civic lesson for his son. You are just an absolutely wonderful dad. Your son is lucky to have you for a dad. At first I thought it was the Public Works that had put them there, and publicly I thanked him on the telephone. He never called me back to tell me he didn't do it. But anyway, thank you, Chris.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Doc.
Good job, Chris.
Anybody else? Good news and recognition.
You think I'm going to follow that? You're crazy. Come on now.
Yes. To what he said. Next.
Under public hearing, we have a public hearing for the itinerant vendor for Tarmo Topsy doing businesses door-to-door sales for Southwestern Advantage.
Anybody wishing to speak on behalf of this item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Next.
Audience participation and response for agenda items.
Anybody wishing to address the council for anything on the agenda, please feel free.
This will be time. This will be your time, Ms. Beauregard, if you'd like to come up. Yeah.
Sure. Come on up.
Andrea?
Oh, actually,
Yep.
I called her.
Come right up and tell us who you are.
Andrea.
We have listening audience and
There you
the
go. Yes.
My name is Andrea Mateer. I've moved here about 10 or 11 years ago, and I've noticed that the MTM Center is like, well, when I first moved here, they said they were tearing it down. It was too old and nothing was going on there. Since then, Mark Stevens has done wonders with the place. It's a good place for kids. It's a good place for seniors. It's a good place for games and I'm proposing that there used to be Graziano's on that square village and 196 that it be called. Promoted so many different things. I mean, if you went by there, I mean, and I told the other people too, I mean, with the help of Lynn and Sherry, he's really just done a really great job with the seniors. They have so many projects in there. You can learn how to quilt, you can learn how to dance, you can play cards 5 days a week. I mean, do they what? Put together puzzles. And the lunches, it's a breakfast one week, dinner the next week. And there's none this week because of Moxie, but next week we're having lobster rolls.
Nice.
We have a crowd now.
Yeah. And I just wanted to give recognition to Mark because he does such a good job, and who knows if they'll ever change that. I asked a couple of little kids, I said, do you know Graziano's? And they said no. You've got to be a certain age to know it. So, and now I see it's just empty, a big empty square. And I'm like, ooh, that would be nice if they gave recognition to somebody before they die.
Good job, Andrea.
Let that be said, Mark.
Yeah. Duly noted.
Exactly. Let that be said, Mark. Exactly. Anybody else wishing to speak on behalf of anything on the agenda?
Or Mark.
He officially is on the agenda now, so
Right.
seeing none, we'll move right along, Twyla.
Next item is the consent agenda. If any counselor wishes to have any item removed, they may do so now. This would be a motion to approve the municipal accounts payable and payroll warrants, number 144 for $15,289.23, number 145 for $16,825.98, number 146 for $134,731.62, number 147 for $121,761.83, and number 1 for $197,145.17, number 2 for $17,912.78, number 3 for $34,555.13. The school accounts payable and payroll warrants, number 35 for $1,008.27. Number 1069 for $342,090.76. Number 1070 for $12,294.15. Number 1825 for $105,025.54. Number 1826 for $184,531.86. And the special council meeting minutes for June 26, 2018. And the itinerant vendor permit for Tarmo Tapsy doing business as door-to-door sales for Southwestern Advantage.
I'll make the motion.
I need a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Order passed, 7-0.
Next, Twyla.
Under council orders, ordinances, and resolutions, order 2018-142 for the fiscal year 2018 carry forward accounts.
Attached is a list of the general ledger and expense accounts to be carried forward from fiscal year 2018, and they're either credit or debit balances.
Anybody have any content? You saw a similar list last year. A lot of them are the earmarks for specific things. The one that stands off the page is the MDOT match for the $156,000. The fire apparatus account is on here, and sewer carry forward, and a couple of other items. If not, I'll entertain a motion,
I'll make the motion.
please.
I'll second it for discussion. Yep.
And then you had a question.
Yeah, and maybe that was described somewhere as the 196 on Davis Street. Is that left over from
That's our match to the downtown.
the,
That will be spent. It's
Okay.
our portion of the downtown infrastructure grant.
yeah, for the 196,
Sidewalk.
right?
Yeah.
Any other questions on content? All in favor?
Order passed, 7-0.
Next, Twyla.
Order 2018-143, the paving bid award.
Good evening, Tom Martin, Public Works Department. You all have a packet in front of you, I believe, with the results of the paving bid, and I'm requesting that we make the award to All State Paving. They had the lowest responsible number. I have met with them, and we've reviewed their bid. It is a good bid, so we would like to award that and move forward.
Should we make a motion for discussion?
Yeah, I'll take the motion in a second, just to get into discussion.
I'll make the motion so we can get the discussion started.
I need a second.
I'll second the motion.
Go ahead, sir.
Now, I guess the big thing stuck off the page, Tom, was the idea of just the prices have actually substantially increased from last year.
Yes.
So the 588 is definitely well over what we actually had originally planned for. And I guess before we move into much discussion, I'll get your thoughts on it, what your thoughts are of.
Well, yeah, the numbers we were working off from, they were bid two years ago probably. So, and it's obviously the asphalt's gone up. So they come in significantly higher, and the paving program that I kind of inherited was chasing the sewer project. So we were strapped to that. scope of work, if you will. So that's how we put it out for bid. What we can do is hold the surface paving off till next year. That will save us about $202,000, so it'll get us under our $425,000 number, and then we'll have to, again, come back for next year to put it back into the next cycle. So.
Now, the road that you would hold off on, is that one that we're actually doing sewer work on?
We won't hold off on any roads.
But I mean, is it a road that we would be doing the sewer work this year, or would that be possibly held off next year also?
I think you'll find the sewer project will probably get done in its entirety this year, just because we got incredible numbers from St. Lawrence. I think they're going to want to come in, get it done, and get out. So they're probably going to push this thing. So that would mean we grind all our roads, pave them, let the base set, which is kind of what we usually do anyway, and then we pick up the surface next year.
So the way you're describing that's standard practice, pretty much.
Yes.
So in doing that, we could reduce it by that $202,000 that you mentioned, get it under
Right.
where we had initially budgeted, and we could live there.
Yeah.
And then just look at the 202 as part of next fiscal year's budget.
Given the trenches, compaction, a frost cycle, we like to see that on the base for a year and then pave it in the spring. In this case, we may have to push it out, or at least half of it out until into our next cycle of paving RFP. So,
May I?
Please.
The chip seal that we were using in the past, is that actually less money than actually going over for a finished surface, or?
Yeah, it's a completely different kind of a process, really. A chip seal puts another wearing course on an existing paved surfaced street. So you just kind of add, as we plow, traffic wears that surface down. They put another chip seal on. It's, 1/2 to 3/4 inches, where a regular surface would be 1.5 inches.
So they don't do that in place of a final surface. I thought that's kind of what they did on some of those other roads.
No.
So that seemed to work really well where it was done. I was just curious.
Unless it was in front of your house.
Yeah, I know.
Excellent.
Because I have some that I'm not that happy about, but anyway.
I'm not a big fan of it either.
Neither am I.
So the $202,000, that's money now. Would the pricing on this actually remain in context, or the fact is, are we looking at potentially a 40% increase next year? So you take that and you inflate that figure to somewhere in the neighborhood of 250.
It really will depend. If payment comes down, we might see something in our favor next year. If payment comes down, because we have in that paving, there's an escalator clause. So if asphalt continues to go up, we could pay more than that, and we'll have to adjust our plan accordingly. But in the same respect, as it goes down, the escalator clause will reduce the cost per ton for pavement. So,
Okay, look, for clarification, then my question: if we're looking at $588,000 and change for this contract, are we going to get this scope of work done for that amount with estimates? And the only thing that would change would be the estimates. The reason being is it leads right back into my question from the previous council meeting: is where do we hear about overruns on change orders? Because I'm hearing that there's potential for a significant one on this, coming off the one from the prior season, costing us more to be able to complete it with this escalator clause. And we had no awareness of that sitting here.
I guess I'm a little confused on your question.
Are we going to get $589,000 done for the scope of work we're asking for, or is it going to come in costing us more?
Well, if pavement doesn't go up, yes, that would be the short answer. If the escalation goes up, we will have to adjust our budget to fit into that.
Right.
I think we'll get all our base done this year under this contract, no problem. It'll be, or if not this fall, first thing in the spring, depending on where St. Laurent falls with finishing the sewer project. And then we'll hold off on the surface.
Right.
And then we'll have to adjust from there. And then we probably build that into our next paving program.
And I
2020.
I can appreciate your perspective on that. Your comment that is genuine is the fact is you inherited this midstream, and the fact is it was already in the works associated with that. I believe from this perspective, we had an unreasonable expectation for the amount of money that we actually earmarked associated with that, and it never once came out in the budgetary process. That's an unfortunate thing, but where I'm going with that now is the fact is everything that we've heard as elected officials is we are not allowed to be able to bind the hands of a future council, and we are doing so to the tune of $200,000 for the next year's budget. First meeting into this year cycle.
Right.
That's an unfortunate circumstance.
We certainly don't have to, but I understand what you're saying.
That's my point.
Sure.
Do we have the ability to bring back the scope to get under the 425 where I would be more comfortable?
And I'll get it out. I don't think you get it
It
all
would
done.
take a lot of doing. Can we? Yes. It would mean probably.
Eliminating some of the roads.
We looked at that option of trying to force the sewer contract to pick up some of the trench paving, but they're at $195 a ton. So,
Right.
you know, that
Yeah, yeah.
obviously just cost-wise would be crazy. So we're stuck with that right now. We have kicked around some opportunities, and Allstate is willing to work with us that if we can do some trench paving to reduce the scope of work, because there are a couple streets that are in pretty decent shape, but we really want to
Gotta
know
work on the
until they're
sections.
done.
Right.
And we might be able to just trench pave and shim versus, reclaim base and surface. So there are some opportunities to save. We just really won't know that till they're done their excavation. So.
Please.
Question, if I could. Did you, because we didn't get a breakdown, and maybe we did, but I didn't actually see them, of the bid process. I mean, is the difference between Crooker and Lane and Allstate strictly a tonnage price?
Yeah.
Because there is a pretty substantial,
It's here.
Crooker usually comes in pretty
Shocked too. We
Pretty-
really were.
pretty cut and dry with everybody
I probably
around.
worked with them the most, just trying to frame up the project.
Exactly. It just seems so that there's a, if it was a $50,000 difference, that'd be one thing, but
Yeah.
it's actually pretty substantial when it comes to so basically it just comes down strictly to tonnage.
It is. It's, the winning bid is 7435 versus 7815, and each number goes up to 83 versus the 76,
I didn't see
140. So
that feature.
it is.
Yeah, it was just surprising.
I looked at that, and it is, for clarification again, this is a good bid. I mean, one of the things that I did in preparation for this is, and I'll give you Lewiston's bidders list. I think we're a little short-sighted. We only send it to certain people. And I know when we put one out in Lewiston, I send it to 17 different contractors because it just takes mobilization to be in the area to make the difference in a bid. And you get some that will actually bid every other third year or those kinds of things. And the other thing that I did is I looked at our FY19 bid, and the pricing that you got from Allstate is consistent with what we actually just awarded to Glidden. You know, so it has nothing to do with Allstate. It has everything to do with the fact is we set ourselves up for a unreasonable expectation for what we have for budgeted.
Sure.
On that note,
That said, we have a motion and we have a second. The approach here going into next year's budget, we're going to be looking at the neighborhood of 200 grand to be able to complete what is in this scope for this contract. And the secondary piece to that is, it's my understanding the bonded roads have shoulder work that still need to be done, and we have exhausted funding to be able to deal with any emergency work left in town in general for the coming year. Is that a correct assessment?
It is, yes.
I'm not happy.
the fact that we're starting this is the fiscal year right now.
We're the first meeting in July.
Yeah, and we don't.
I'm
We
not
have
happy.
$0 for any emergency road work. How'd we get here?
And again, it was an unreasonable expectation for what we built into the budget. Any other questions of, and I thank you, that's a very fair assessment for the reality that you inherited midstream. I appreciate your candor. Any other questions of
Just need
Tom?
more clarification that if we were to actually allocate or approve the 588, that would be actually approving money that we don't already have budgeted.
Correct.
Okay, so I mean, really the only
Want to change that number right now before you start sticking your hands out.
Yeah.
that or the idea of go back to what was originally approved. I mean, that's a question. I mean, I
If
guess.
you go back to that number, and then you can not do the final coat, and then you can still have some money left over,
That's what we talked about, yeah.
potentially.
Potentially.
That you could put towards next,
Right.
right?
We stay inside of the number. I think that's what we're all talking about here.
Well, I mean, I don't want to cut it so short. I just want to understand the vote, that's all. But if the remainder of the funds,
You know how much we have?
that isn't there. That would actually, if we were to vote on it, would have to come out of another area, which would probably have to come out of, what, an undesignated amount, which would be pulling out, which, which is tough, since what we just went through the budget and actually just spent last week allocating what we were going to take out of undesignated account to pay for stuff. So it's a hard call,
Back the number up. Tom already told us what he was going to do.
I mean, we could, and I understand where Alan was coming from too, by saying we could get to next year, I think it's 202 and it could be 250 or worse.
Correct. But if you allow for the what was it?
425.
If you allow for the 425 and he only uses 300 or 350, you're still the money's gonna be there for next year, correct? So if you're gonna have an offset, you're still gonna have X amount of money to put towards it anyway. So I think it will be a wash, or a better angle to do what Tom's saying.
So what is appropriate?
Change the number back to 425, and
You
that's
can
what we
make an
award you.
amendment
Down or amend it first?
Amend it
I
to
would-
a number that you want to use.
I would make a friendly amendment to recommendation of 425, which is what we actually have.
Is that an amendment?
And then you can do whatever the best you can do, and
That's my proposal.
Second.
But you have
There'll
the
be a
first and
second to that right here.
Well,
I'll
it goes to the original person. That would be my recommendation, that they have to make that, right?
So it'd
Yeah,
be a
if
first
you-
and second again?
You can make a motion if you want to as chair, but if you want somebody else to, that's fine. But it needs an amendment.
We need this. We need the friendly amendment to
I would
the
also,
person the
excuse
second.
me, I would probably also need to consult with Allstate to see if they are,
They're still willing to work.
right, they may say where they,
And if they can't, then
might
unfortunately the issue
say,
there is I would reject the bids and actually put the scope back out
back
for
out to
Yep.
bid,
the
yeah.
bid.
Is that something that we need to vote on tonight? Is it worth having a discussion ahead of time, since, have they already been notified that they were bid awarders, or were you?
We did, but.
You've actually had communication with them?
and you did tell them that we were a little over the budget that we.
I did, oh yeah, they knew, and
And
they're
they're willing
gonna
to
be
work.
friendly
They're
enough to
willing
use
to
the
work
work.
with.
they've actually offered a couple ideas as well. We have not had a chance to meet to discuss them, but, again, as far as awarding, I wouldn't be, obviously I can't award them the bid until we know.
How the
Where you're at.
financing's going to work, right?
Yep. Well, I would amend the motion to go to the 425 number that was originally put out there originally, and not to tie your hands, but strictly just try to keep us within a budget that this year's young. Really young. To not have any money out there to actually be able to do any emergency road repair, which could happen at any point in time, so.
You're okay with that with the second?
Oh, I'm the second. I'm the second on the amendment
All right with
to
that, Tom?
425.
It is what it is.
It's unfortunate, because I know the circumstance isn't one that you actually originally drove here, but we appreciate the idea of you moving it forward and trying to get done what we need to get done, that's all.
Being flexible and understanding what we have to do here. And
Any other questions?
Everybody
The
understands.
friendly amendment is at 425 now, and you'll keep us informed if that actually is good, or if we have to actually reject the bids and go back out.
I will do that.
so we don't need to vote then. Just wanna make
Now you
sure.
need to vote on
We
your
do, okay,
amendment.
that's what I thought, okay.
We vote on the amendment.
Yeah, so
Vote on the amendment. All in favor, please.
order passed 7-0. Now the main motion as amended. Need to vote.
All in favor.
7-0, order passed.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
As amended.
You.
Took me a second there to register what you were saying.
Saw that.
All right, next item, Twyla.
Order 2018-144, MTM Center Bus Replacement.
Thanks for that, Tom. You guys all ready to talk about,
Bus.
More? No. No, again, we're still the first meeting in the new fiscal year, and we're asking for a fund budget allocation.
so
Not happy.
when I wrote the letter, I stated wrong. The month of May was not correct. It was the month of June. Public Works sent me the pictures of the
Thank
frame,
you.
June 21st.
That was a key sticking point in my mind. The budget wasn't approved till June 26th,
Yeah.
so thank you, Mark.
But I did want to give you a little history with the letter I wrote, with the proposal, basically letting you know that we thought it was really important that we purchased the bus, that we weren't using taxpayers' money. We were doing it through fundraising through the Moxie Car Show. That was one of the reasons why we started the car show. We were able to raise quite a few dollars with that, and we put it for something purposeful. We had a program, a car show called Vintage Cars for Vintage People. We've been selling for that for the last 5 years, and over the last 5 or 6 years, we've raised almost $50,000-$60,000 with the car show, and we continue to do that. We're gonna, this coming Sunday is we're looking at good weather, and last year I think we had about 400 cars and even more spectators. So with that, we were expecting that van or that bus to last us another 4 or 5 years. And when we found out that it was going to cost about $6,000, I think you have estimates in front of you from Don's Automotive, to have that frame fixed and have all the other things underneath the carriage repaired. We purchased the van for $10,000 and to put $6,000 in it just didn't make sense to anybody. So with that, we were looking at what we could do. We looked at renting vans from Stewart's. We've done that in the past in a pinch, but it's really not feasible to rent vans all the time on trips. We have a lot of older folks, and we have a few here today that will attest that crawling into the back of a van is not convenient for anyone. But the bus that we had was incredibly convenient. They were able to step up. It had a low step, walk up into the van, take a seat like they would a nice carriage bus, and actually sit and talk to the neighbor next to them. And when I was talking to Willin about it today, I said, they're going to ask us why we need a van. It's got to be really clear. It's not something that we just want. We just want to have, another piece of inventory. But Lynn said it best. She said, it's not just the trips we go on. It's the journey. It's getting there. Getting there is half the fun. And then we get back on the bus to get back. It's getting back. And it makes a lot of sense to me. Looking at pricing, there's prices all over the board. For the new buses are incredibly $100,000, or you can buy them for even more. Used buses with about 50,000 miles, we can get one for around $20,000. That's about the best I could find just by Googling it and searching on the web. But what I'm hoping that the council does is that you look at our record and the way we budget and how we've not overspent our budget in the past several years, and in the amount of revenues that we bring in that go back into the undesignated surplus. So with that, I'd like to answer any questions you might have.
If we don't commit to the first and the second for what's actually here, can we have discussion first with the size group to actually not back us into a corner, then have to step out of that? My question is the first thing that stands off this page is that if we, going through the budget, I remember asking the question about the $9,000 that was estimated coming from the car show that actually was a reduction in this year. And the fact is, I remember asking the question, is that needing to be addressed? I really wish you had said yes at that point rather than I'm happy with what we can do here, because it would have been $9,000 that we could have actually earmarked for this. I would like to ask the question of town manager. What's the hardship if the fact that what's actually taken in from this car show is actually available to pay for what would actually come out of it? So there's no tapping the fund balance. All we're going to have is $9,000 shortfall in revenues coming from that line item, correct? It would be a known deficit. Yep. There's no budgetary impact.
Right, it would be a deficit on the revenue side. So if you earmark that revenue to go towards this and didn't record it as a revenue, then you'd just be short on your revenues.
It makes, and if you guys can follow me on this, and the fact is, and by all means jump in, if this was the original intent of that funding and we cut it to actually put it back in the general fund, I would reverse that decision here publicly tonight to actually put that back in for what comes out of this car show this coming weekend, be available to pay for the first year for what actually needs to be for the purchase of that van. I think that that is the easier win for me, rather than, again, I remember when I first took tenure sitting in this chair, frankly, I lost my cool and expressed a considerable amount of attitude about a $100,000 non-budgeted, non-LCIP expenditure for a roof on this building that I thought was completely inappropriate. I was glad to see at least that your van was actually on the LCIP, or I was going to lose my shit here tonight. Because, yeah. And well, I wouldn't have bleeped it with Mark anyways, too. He knows this, because the fact is, I like you, we wear it on our sleeve. The fact is, it is an unfortunate set of circumstances. Again, the first meeting of the new fiscal year, which is not something I'm sure you were comfortable wanting to be sitting here talking about tonight. Neither are we. The fact is, but that said, timing is what it is. I would think the easier fix is not a fund balance allocation, because I stand by what I've told other department heads. You present me a budget, I'm expecting you to live within that budget for the coming year. Hell or high water, it needs to play out that way. Contingencies are what they are. I just think the easier fix for me is to actually go back to the car show and know that you have whatever comes in for proceeds available to at least pay for the first year for the replacement of the van.
There's some more benefits to that than what you see, because if people are volunteering and they're donating for vintage cars for vintage
It's
people,
going back to the program they're representing.
people are willing to volunteer for that, and they're willing to sponsor things that go back into an actual project. And that's something that we were very, it was important for us to let people know what we were using the money for, especially the people that sponsored the car show. Every year we'd have a meeting after the car show, and we'll let everybody know on the rec committee, and we try to let our sponsors know where that money went, what we purchased that year. If we completely rebuilt the seniors' room, carpeted, did a lot of improvements. So that's why I think it'd be a benefit to, I think it was, I can't remember what, there were 5,600 accounts, Diane. I think we changed them all back to line item budgets, but it was, I don't know the accounting name of it, but it was a 5,600 account expense line that we used. We put money into that, and then we carry forward it every year, just like you are tonight with other accounts. That's what the Moxie car show was. So,
Yeah.
By all means, I've monopolized way too much. Please, somebody else.
I guess a couple questions I have about your approach is, is one, I don't know how you actually do partial funding for a vehicle and just part of it 1 year, second year, unless it's some type of long-term. How would you actually?
My thought process being, in effect, is
I understand your process, where your money's coming from, but how do you actually take and I still question whether or not.
What do we do year two?
Or how do you actually purchase something with half the funding? Because let's face it, if you get $9,000, and I still really question whether, I'm not being, I haven't looked out there, but $20,000, I assume that you're going to buy a bus that's going to last you another 4 to 5 years.
Yeah.
Most commercial vehicles today, after being 10 years on the road, are pretty much, that's why the person's selling it. They're not selling it because they have another 5, 10 years. They're selling it because it's time to move on and actually upgrade. I don't know. I guess I'm questioning if say, the Mark was to find that magic $20,000 bus tomorrow, how do you actually go about purchasing that if you only have $9,000 of funding? I realize you probably can get a couple $1,000s out of this one. Maybe not. I don't know. It still has some value, but that still leaves it quite shy of.
Where I was looking at that would be, it's a reversal of what we're trying to do with the cruisers. The fact is, we would be going back out to a short-term financing arrangement. The fact is, the 3-year deal to be able to purchase what you're actually doing. So it would be something that would be moving forward. We had what you expected to pay for a financing arrangement in the first year to be able to pay off the basis for what he would actually have.
Is there a tool out there, Diane, to be able to do something like that? Or?
What I would do is, there's a potential of one more project that's going to come in way underfunded that you've already approved through unassigned fund balance, and I would take the remainder of that and put towards it. It's our server upgrades. I think we only have one more bill, so we're going to have some more left over from that.
How much some more?
I think pretty close to 8,000 or 9,000, possibly.
And when would you actually know that? Is
8
that
or 9
something
with
that's-
your 8 or 9. You're getting closer.
I've got a meeting next week, so I'll know more next week.
And the other,
And
the
then-
other wild ass idea that I had to myself
Oh, yeah?
is the fact is we'll be putting department heads in a room where we actually just talked about what we were actually looking at for a fund balance allocation. If we're gonna come up with an original 20 grand, where are we gonna save 20 grand and have you guys actually sort it out, rather than it be something that just get put on an agenda that the 7 of us have to field unbeknownst to what the situations are. Because it is a list that we went through everybody's goals. The fact is, everybody's goal comes at somebody else's expense associated with that. There are things that maybe we could push off to be able to realize this and have a group decision, because one of the things that I would say is the number one goal from this council for the last 2 years has been communication. And with this item, the way that it appeared on the agenda for the first time, hearing it tonight, I think we're lacking in that. I think communication fell flat, and I think we can use it for an example to actually improve that discussion.
Another question, may I?
Yes.
If no one else, I mean, there's no question about it, you use the van. I mean, it's actually being used, so it is something that's actually needed. I mean, and you have one right now that you can't use because it's actually so something has to happen.
Right.
I mean, the original price of $10,000 5 years ago, I mean, any idea what you think you've spent for maintenance over the last 5 years? I mean, give or take.
I gave
rough
a
number.
copy of that from Don's is the only one that fixed
Yeah,
it.
I seen that
It's
estimate too.
ugly.
Yeah. The only reason I put that out there is I would hate to actually go out and buy another bargain and actually spend for it, higher maintenance as we go through. I mean, it's actually pay now or pay later when it comes to a lot of these commercial vehicles. So, I mean, I would hope that we don't go out shopping for the cheapest thing possible, just to actually to be able to pay more for maintenance over the next 5 years, because you hope that you're gonna have at least 5 years. Again, it's just one of those things where $100,000 vehicle new, when you purchase it for 20, you've actually someone's already got the 80% of the life out of it, and that's it's just hard to. I think sometimes the town, kind of self short by buying stuff that's actually not really quite what they should have had in the first place, just to make the money look wise, and then it costs them more in the long run. So, have you actually had any? Have you found any out there for 20 mark? I mean, you have.
Yeah, I did, and they had less miles, but the same kind of setup. But when you look real closely at it, you can see where there's rust starting around the step going in. That seems to want to be the first places that rust out. It's a little sloppy, but a lot of them are out of state, so you can't go look at them.
Yeah.
I got this one from Stewart's. I think he was asking $15,000, and he gave us a deal after talking to him for 10. So I mean, we got a good deal on it, and it gave us some good times, good trips, and stuff like that. But of course, when I was looking at the $30,000 and the $40,000 buses, vans, and those only had 20,000 miles on them, and they still look brand new, well taken care of, and I know they're not inexpensive, and what I wanted to say too is that Lydia gave me a report card today of expenses. I always do this every few months. I ask her how we did the last 3 years. I think I explained it to you during the council meeting, that the last 3 years we collected over $20,000 in revenues, maybe the last 4 years, consistently, and then we budgeted that new revenue stream in the following year. So it's always been growing up. Well, this year we've collected over $31,000 more than we budgeted, and on the expense side we have not a surplus, but we're in the black by $50,000 or $61,000 actually, because we didn't hire that part-time maintenance person back in the fall. We tried to hire somebody. Well, we didn't use that salary line, so that we have $23,000 in temp wages that is still going to be carried forwarded or put back into the undesignated surplus fund balance. Because you were talking about searching for budget lines that haven't been, that might have some expenses left.
I mean, I guess I'd have a couple of requests. One is the idea of maybe the idea of finding out what we do have available money that we could use that is out there, and secondly, just to make sure that we find a bus. I mean, that we don't look at saying that we only get 20,000, so we're going to settle with what we got, but actually looking for something that, I mean, I would be very hard pressed to buy anything that you don't have someone looked at first, like Ron, have someone actually look at it and say, yeah, this thing has 4 or 5 years, or
Absolutely.
The downfall is we're not the only state that uses calcium and pre-treatment now. So I mean, you'd want to make sure that there's something good out there. So I mean, I'm not,
Don't be afraid to look at something that's 30.
I'm going to piggyback right now because while you guys were talking and I'd done my homework and read, but one thing I did was I jumped on right now. So when people look at the eye in the sky there and they thought that I was busy looking at my phone, I wasn't looking at Facebook. I looked at just some of the 2017 E350, just the comparison right off of here. Econoline Super Duty bus. This is a 2017, so it's not even 2018. 66 grand. So, and that's a two-wheel, 8-cylinder, and you roll down to one a couple of years back, 2015, that was 55. So if we're looking to touch anything probably inside of 4 years from now and back to 14, it's probably going to be a pretty significant chunk of change. So I agree with you 100%, and I'm glad that Stewart's treated us right on the price back then, but I don't think it's an idea about trying to take the cheapest one we can get, because we'll be right back in this boat sooner rather than later, maybe even just in maintenance alone in a couple of years. So.
Mark, is there any rush? I mean, I know that you wanted this on the budget tonight to try to move forward with it. I know you don't have a van right now, but just something maybe we can do. You can do a little more homework, and Diane can try to pull some numbers together and try to figure out where we're going to be number-wise and stuff. I mean,
2 weeks ain't going to change it.
No.
Well, short term, if you have any trips coming up, could you use the rental to get you through while we get these numbers together?
Yeah, we'll do that.
yeah.
Perfect.
When's the inspection sticker up?
It ran out June 1st, I
It
believe.
was the June. Okay.
Well, the truck's off the road.
So we'll use it when, and this is me just asking the question, when it does come time for us to pull the trigger, if it's something that we're going to a dealership with, we can send that the way of the dinosaur, move it along as well, right?
Yes.
If it's
That would
not-
be my
Yeah,
recommendation.
mine too.
The fact is, stuff that sticks around that actually just sits in the PW yard until we can get rid of it is not the right approach.
Could we actually move forward right now, since it actually isn't stickered and not usable? Can we actually just allow the idea of put it out for sale now to see if we have some revenue so we can put it towards?
Or cash towards a new one.
Yeah.
You're not using it.
If it's just sitting there, I mean, there's someone out there that will do something with it, you know?
Yep.
Okay.
Is that something that needs to be?
That would be my recommendation, and if we've done sealed bids in the past. If you're looking for an option on that, Tom, I can give you a gentleman's name from Auction International online. And the fact is, I use them with a recommendation from South Portland, and it's my experience that it's better than the sealed bid approach. So Dave Kazalt is the guy's name, and I'll get you that information tomorrow.
I'll check with Ron too. Ron may have some ideas too of, other companies.
Anything versus the sealed bids, I think, would be the right approach. And the other part is it doesn't sit for a season. Overwinter does no good sitting in our yard.
Oh, no, we want it gone before the snow flies.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, very good.
I don't think nobody is not supportive associated with the idea, but I am not comfortable with the fund balance, and I think it works against the budgetary message that we tried to put with the departments working within that. Anybody else, please?
No, I agree with you. We'd look foolish if we held the PW director's feet to the fire and then
Several times.
Get the bus.
Several times. Yeah, that's
Terrible timing,
Yeah.
but I understand.
Very good.
so. For
Everybody's
this item
voting
on the
it.
agenda tonight, we tabled to discuss to be able to do, or what, the action item is, he
Right,
can go out and be able to come back with something as a future agenda.
right.
Is that not,
That's the discussion that we'll put in there. Yep.
let's
No
leave
motion.
that.
No, we don't currently have a meeting scheduled for 2 weeks from now, do we?
No, we don't.
No,
we don't.
the next.
So
I was
do
just-
we
I was
want
just
to
throwing
hold
that
a
you.
meeting, So that he's not hanging in the wind all summer.
Way I would approach that, I would like to stick with the summer schedule. If you have something you actually can solicit through the council, get it to Diane, and we can take action through that recourse. The fact is, because if we don't hear from it electronically, I texted or gotten these folks, and you'll have an answer to be able to take action.
When's our next schedule? In August, we stick with the summer schedule.
August 14th.
All right, would that be too far out, Mark, to be able to manage the programs that you have?
I don't think so, August 14th?
You find you'll be able to use rentals up until that point?
Yeah, we'll have to.
Great.
And if, Dick said, again, if you've got something before then, let us know, and we'll take action from there.
As far as are you saying solicit, what are you expecting for me for that?
You're at this point, we're exploring options to be able to figure out what's available, to be able to know, is it a reasonable item
Okay.
to be purchased?
How much
If we
money
get-
and what can you find?
What's available and what's it gonna cost us? And then we can back into the
Gives you a
finance.
fantastic lead on a bus, but it requires timing that's prior to the 14th. I guess that's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
Do we
Correct.
actually
Alright.
need to, do we need
You
to
make the
actually-
call.
Do we need to have a vote to actually allow them to go out to put out a bid?
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
that's basically what you're asking,
We
right,
can't do that
Mark? Yeah.
electronically.
We have a motion.
I make a motion that we allow
I need a
Mark to go out to
second.
bid.
I'll second.
There we go. All in favor of that?
Okay, go out to bid on the
Yeah.
existing van.
Yeah, I would actually just, again, if I may, just,
Please.
put together a good bid package and work whoever you need to actually make sure you're putting out a bid that's compatible with what you already have, and that
Okay.
when you get the results back, they'll be all, apples to apples.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right, thank you.
Next item, 12.
Order 2018-145 to set a public hearing for dangerous buildings, 428 and 430 Ridge Road.
This is going to be that joint public hearing with Sabatis on 430 Ridge Road that we talked about at the last meeting, that we're going to set it on September 18th at 6 p.m.
That's a historical building, the old tavern, right?
Right.
Are we bound by any, is that on a historical registry? Are we bound by anything on
Is
that?
there anything we can or can't do to his question, I guess? Can you get,
I don't think, I think we're all set on that because there's just nothing left of that building.
Okay.
That's safe at this point.
That's what Dennis said the last time.
that's what I remembered too, is that it was passed on, and I don't remember if it was here, if it was at the planning
I think
board.
only the building is in Sabatis. I believe that the garages are actually in Lisbon.
Right.
No, I know, and
I'm
I
not sure
think,
how that line rides over there, but
no, but I think maybe, I'm not sure what condition of the garages are in, but I think that's part of this. Because if it wasn't, it really isn't our issue.
That's what I was going to
It's
say.
Sabatis' issue.
because if you
Kathy-
go over there, them
Kathy's
guys,
back
they know there's nothing
part-time,
about
and
them
I asked her to
garages.
look that up today.
The building is on our side or their side? It's from
Their side.
Clarify.
Yeah.
So we're just going to knock the garage
But I
down.
think there's more property there that Dennis is dealing with on this site that is on our side.
Correct. Do you need a motion?
I need a motion.
I make a motion that we actually set a public hearing date for the buildings.
All in favor? September 18th,
That's-
6 p.m.
sounds
is what I heard, correct?
At 6 p.m.
At that meeting, when we have the ideas of where the line falls and what's on each side of the property and all that type of stuff,
Yes.
and what happens with the property after, I mean, unfortunately, if you split the property in half with Sebastian and Listen, it's probably
Well, no,
not enough to do
I
anything.
talked to the manager, and we agreed that we would be splitting whatever the percentage of the assessment is. So whatever percentage that we're assessing is how it will go. So that if 100% of that's on Sabatis' side, they have to pay 100% of the legal fees, and then whatever the cost of demolition is as well.
And then splitting the cost of, the proceeds from selling, basically.
Yeah, if they sell it, then they would get 100%.
All right.
But I think there's got to be some buildings on our side. that
There is.
Dennis
Interesting to see
dealing
how
with
that
as
lays
well.
out.
It wouldn't
for
be a
sure.
joint
Yeah.
discussion if it wasn't.
Exactly.
We must be able to know what we've been taxed and who's been taxing what over the years, right?
Yeah, I talked to Kathy about it today, and she's going to look that up. I said, I just need to know if any of that building is on our side, and I said, then I also need to know what portion, she'll get with Dennis tomorrow, because Dennis was in Sabatis today, what part of the buildings that are existing are we dealing with the issues that are on our side?
Could we
I want a
get,
clear
could we get that
understanding of
information
that.
prior to that meeting?
Yes,
So we can
I
actually,
can.
that'd be great, thank you.
Next file?
Other business, council committee reports.
School?
No news is good news.
Planning, they had accepted planning proposals for Johnson Wood Row, which is on Ferry Road, for a right-of-way to the water that they're putting in. Ricker Farm, they divided 2 lots, accepted that. And the planning board talked about getting information from the department heads and individuals that would be interested for the Moxie booth that's going on Saturday. They're working on placement. Did they work with you to find out if they were still available in front of the Moxie location they were in last year?
It's right in that area.
Yeah, just trying to figure out where they replacement, so they got the easy up there at the table. They were looking for volunteers day of. I know you were able to be there last year, so if anybody's got interest, I would just coordinate with Don and work it out from there. Water.
I didn't get an opportunity to make that meeting. It was today at 5:30. I had other obligations. I will speak with Shelley Reynolds.
Okay.
I think it's my mic that's getting crazy. And if there's anything important, I'll get back to you.
Perfect. LDC.
Still moving forward. We actually took a break for our last meeting, so the Moxie thing can kind of move forward since everybody's fully engaged at this point. all hands on deck, I imagine, at this point in time. It's coming up pretty quick. So we'll be actually have a meeting following and keep moving forward.
Conservation, they, according to Mark, gave the 2 invasive maples up to the gazebo a severe haircut to be able to knock them down in the next couple of days. So that work is moving forward, and they're going to be doing visits to see what else needs to be addressed through Mark's department. Recreation.
There was over 200 kids. Over 200 or almost 200? Almost 200 kids at Beaver Park today. Swimming, hiking, fishing, you name it, they did it. Rec department seems to be booming. My kids go there, so there's always all kinds of little rugrats running around. And looks like the Moxie 5K is kicking off. Just in the last 7 days, 161 new registrants. Last year was 106.
Perfect.
So I think you guys are gonna kick it off pretty good. Anything else you want to add?
County will pick up in the end of August. Library.
Nothing new to report.
Town manager.
I did go out for fuel bids towards the end of June. I did it before the pricing went up again, so. The propane were about 10 cents more than what we paid in the current year, 10 cents higher. And then both the heating fuel was about 48 cents higher. And the diesel, I got fixed pricing of 2.558. And then the gasoline is geez, did I get the wrong? Yeah, fixed pricing of 2.2984. Last year, the gasoline was rack price. And then the diesel last year was 2.079 for it, so that's about 48 cents higher. It's better than what it was when I went out at the end of May.
When we looked at it then, that was ugly.
Yeah.
My question, I guess, would be any budgetary impact with what you're looking at, or is it too soon to tell?
It's too soon to tell. It's gonna, also I'll have to look back to see what we budgeted. The part that's hard is the gasoline, because we paid rack price, so we might have paid higher than if we had had a fixed price. And going into this new year, I've got a fixed pricing, so I think that's going to be favorable to us.
Okay. If you could
I will look at that.
give us an update for
Yep.
the next meeting to make sure that
Yep.
there isn't any budgetary issue associated with that, that would be great. Town clerk.
Okay. I just wanted to announce, as we do usually every year, that the following individuals' terms for this November election are up. So the town councilor at large, 3-year term, is Norman Albert, and the town councilor District 1, 3-year term, is Cassie Colby, and District 2, another 3-year term, is Alan Ward. So those will be accepting nomination papers and circulating them for those positions. And the school committee member whose term is up is Pete Reed and Kathy Yergin, and the water commissioner whose term is up is Marie Hale. All the nomination papers will be available starting on July 30th at 8:30 a.m., and they have to be returned to the town clerk for filing on or before September 7th, 2018 at 4:30 p.m.
At those states, right?
You need not less than 50, no more than 75 signatures. Hope to see you all
75?
there.
I don't know if I can make that.
Thank you, Twyla.
You're welcome. That's a lot of work.
Next item.
Appointments, none. Council communications.
You had one.
I have a couple, actually. Should have been earlier, and good news and recognition. A lot of big things happen in town, but little things too. I just want to thank the school department for actually getting up there and sanding and painting the flagpole. It's been one of those things that's been, that one little thing people drive by and see all the time, and the idea of painting the flagpole, cleaning up the monument, doing a little bit of cleanup around there, just first impressions, go a long way. So they've heard enough criticism about that, so we thank you very much for doing it. It's a little thing sometimes that make all the difference. The second one is I just wanted to bring council and get some ideas. Last year, I think it was last year, the ATV Club had actually come forward and actually put a plan together to try to get access into the downtown, get gas and stuff. They've been running into some concerns and problems with the direction that they wanted to go, and it was asked if I would bring something forward for the council to consider. Pretty much what they're trying to do is get out from the idea of coming through Topsom down Gore Road, in that vicinity. I'm not saying down Gore Road, but they were trying to access down through Houston Street and down through a back trail. With that not working, they were wondering if, or asking the council to consider the idea of using a little bit closer road, Wing Street, connected to Route 9 and down Route 9 to come into the same location. It would be the idea of us relooking, redoing maps, and actually changing the, just putting another vote on it. But I just wanted to see if the council had any thoughts, pros, negatives, or...
They're coming out of that pit on Wing Street. Is that where they would be coming from off
Correct.
the trail right there?
Yep.
And then they'd be going up the top of Wing Street and then coming down 9 right there.
Correct, yep.
Make sure I understand
Yep,
that.
and then there would be, I'm sure, something I'd have to work out with Chief Hagan, the idea of speed limits and how it's done, but, Route 9, 196, I mean, it's one of those things where I don't think it is a question of traffic, it's just more the idea of doing it in a safe manner. It's within a restricted time of the year, and I think if it's done right, it's actually a good opportunity to connect our town, to get people downtown, but it's one of those things where I just, the council needs to actually kind of give it a thumbs up to actually to allow the town to move forward to see what it would take to.
When would it be
redraw
allowed,
those.
the start and the stop?
As far as timing wise,
Yeah, I'm trying. We don't have
There's-
to hold it to exact, but just spitball for me. We start April 1. Are we talking about?
It starts June 1st and ends October something.
correct. Yeah, it's not a year round. It's actually just in the middle. Typically, it's when trail is actually allowed to dry out. So I think June 1st is actually that date, and then early in fall, where before the hunting seasons, that type of stuff. But
Now,
Thank you.
does that require, didn't we have to do notification to neighbors and public hearing that have to
We
go
need to
through
do a
that?
public hearing because there'll be an ordinance amendment.
Right.
But I don't believe they notified anybody the last time. There was no notification.
Because putting the public hearing on the agenda
Right,
is that piece. Okay, that's what I wasn't sure of.
right.
I guess I wouldn't be opposed to actually modifying there if it's actually improving the process. That would be my soundbite.
I just want to make sure that we have that it's on blast, that people understand and know that it's a public hearing to express concerns, and there was a time and a place to do it, and it's not just a small ad in the newspaper. We actually put it on the website, make sure that it's communicated clearly, so that we don't have the same tripping point that we had this last time around.
Right, and we need to make some other changes to it based on a couple of the issues we've been dealing with lately. One was the one a few weeks ago, and then another one
Right.
happened this weekend. So we do have to update the map and then update the ordinance, so might as well do it all at once.
it's an unreasonable thing that we could do that and actually bring this forward to a public hearing on our August meeting. Just unfortunately, we have a very short season, so if we actually wait till September to
Right,
put it through.
I
I'm
think
just asking.
it's better to adjust it and improve the situation, because the other caveat is if it doesn't, it also has language in it that we can kill it in December. And a one-year deal, then it's done, isn't what they were looking for to be able to move this forward.
Do you want to set the public hearing tonight for the August 14th?
I would like to do that, and if something comes up in the meantime that doesn't allow that to happen, we always can, have a public hearing that just gives a factual,
Yeah, I
give
just got to
facts
get
giving more so.
Dennis to update the map, and we can update the ordinance on the road changes, additions and deletions.
You need to make a
That's the
motion
only
for
thing
that,
you're going to
or is
really
that-
need to do.
You just did.
I made a motion, okay?
I think also we're going to probably need to have some extra signage along the road there, because there could be, there's a lot of traffic on Route 9, and people need to have some warning that, there's going to be people driving down the shoulder, so you don't run into the back of someone. So I think, put up a couple signs there would
We'll
help.
get Chief Hagan involved and see what he
Stick some
suggests as
warning
well.
signs, crossing, and
It may even slow the
Shoulder.
traffic down in that area, who knows, right?
I need a second to Fern's motion for the public hearing.
I'll be the second. Can't speak today.
Anybody else? All in favor? Opposed?
7-0.
So, since we're still in council
Yes.
communications, I just want to take a moment to, and I think I may or may not have hit this last meeting that we had, but I'm going to hit it again. Marcia Crawford's murals on the library, top notch.
Incredible.
Excellent, just excellent stuff. So The entire Crawford family's getting love today from the front and the back end. Yeah, it's just good stuff. It really changes the whole. I know every time I drive by, I was like, I can't believe that's in our town. That's so cool.
Can't believe it's going to go away. That's a problem.
Well,
You know,
and
it's
well,
temporary,
hey, you're
yeah.
right, but
Yeah.
sometimes it's about making people hungry for more of that, and you might see it pop up and maybe be permanent next time, which is great.
Very
So,
nice.
Just kudos to her for all the hard work.
Or a mobile one where it's moving around town.
Get one. Hey, she can do a couple we can put in here. I got no
We can
one.
buy an old
We'll
bus
figure
that
some
you can
things
hang
out.
inside of and-
Right.
I have an old bus.
As creative as she is, I'm sure she's got plenty of friends who could probably add some of their vision to our little community, which would be kind of cool.
Anybody else? Next item 12.
Audience participation for new items.
Anyone? Come on down.
Dot Fitzgerald, Lisbon Falls again. My suggestion for the light, a light at the garden, Route 196 School Street Garden, was a safety issue to prevent continued damaging the garden and continued damaging the wheels. I'm wondering how many people, there are probably a lot of people in town and visitors to the town come from the Moxie Festival, know the history of the wheels, where they came from, and why they're there. If I recollect, it was Fay Brown that suggested rescuing them from the Rambo Mill. I kind of thought it might be nice if sometime in the future a plaque could be made and erected there with a brief description of the wheels, where they came from, a little history of the mill. This is the town of Lisbon heritage. The wheels are there, no description. Why? They're nice, they're beautiful, they make a wonderful attraction to the garden. But it would be nice for the public or somebody to know where they came from and why they're there. And if a plaque ever is made, put up there, it would be wonderful to have Fay Brown do the dedication. She deserves a lot of credit for our gardens and for a lot of things. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc.
Thank you, Doc. Anybody else? Seeing no one, moving forward.
Next is executive session, Order 2018-146, to go into executive session per 1 MRSA Section 405-6C, acquisition or disposition of real property or economic development.
Will there be a vote after?
Yes.
Public's willing to stay in the wing if they'd like. We're going to stay right here. If not, class dismissed.
Those making the motion?
I'll make the motion.
I need a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you. 7-0.
5-minute break?
Yeah.
5 minutes.
Say a bus. My grandfather used to have a bus that my dad had and used to drive me around in when I was a kid. It would have been perfect for that. When he passed away, they sold it.
It's given a strange